Now? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Vintage Motocross Q&A. I'm your host, Joe Abadi. I put up a post just a few moments ago that we would be live at 6 o'clock this evening with this episode. We came very, very close to not having a show this week. Due to the coronavirus and the lockdown in the San Francisco Bay Area, Jordan was not able to travel out here on Wednesdays as he normally does. So we had to do a lot of jumping around and a lot of finagling to get this show live to you this evening. Yes, I could have done it off of my telephone from Facebook, which you are seeing it from Facebook, but we would have done it from my phone. We wouldn't have had any graphics, no music, and it wouldn't have been the show you've grown accustomed to watching. Could have called off the show completely, but I wanted to support the sponsors who sponsor me, including AMSOIL, Preston Petty, and of course, VINCO. So here we are, we're putting on a show. Beware, I can't see anything that's on your screen. Jordan isn't here. I can't see any graphics. I can't hear any music. I'm basically staring at a black screen on my phone, but I'm going to present a show to you the best I can. Jordan, 35 miles away at his house, is going to be moving the slides along while I read from paper copy for this show. So thank you, Jordan Woodworth, and of course, Susie as well. We worked very, very hard to bring you a show tonight, and I'm going to bring it to you. So right now, let's get down to the starting line. On tonight's show, we're going to do something in the Next Time Try This segment where we talk about end gap on piston rings. We also have in the Moto Showcase a 1974 Honda CR100. It's a great looking little bike. I'm looking forward to showing it to you. In the Here's the Problem segment, we had a great question come in regarding upside down forks, and we got some live responses from Steve Simons himself. So we'll be talking more about that. In the What's It Worth segment, absurdity. A 1974 TM400 that recently sold for $16,400. You're going to hear what I have to say about that. We've got a new segment tonight too. It's called Just How I See It. And in that segment, well, I'll be bringing up some topics, some things in motocross, supercross, maybe in restorations in the future. And I'm going to tell you how I feel about it. Whether it's right or wrong, you'll be able to tell me a little bit later on. Also, we want to thank our sponsors, VINCO, Preston Petty, Metro Racing, and AMSOIL for showing up every week with some great products for us. We've got the trivia contest a little bit later on where you'll win a Preston Petty number plate. For right now, I want to ask everybody who's watching to share the show. Maybe you could just go down there to that share button, press on that, let your friends know that you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A and you'd like them to come and join you. Also, big news. We're now on YouTube. We have our own channel. It's Vmxq&A Live. That's Vmxq&A Live on YouTube. So when you get a chance, get over there, subscribe to our channel. We'll be live on YouTube as well in the future. Make sure you subscribe, tell some friends about it. At this time where so many of us are relegated to being home for the next couple of weeks, I'm sure there's going to be a honey-do list. And I thought about, well, maybe you should have a little dirt bike list that you should be checking out. Some of the things on your bike, being so many of the races have been canceled, called off, and a lot of us are just going to be stuck home. This would be a great time for you maybe to do a set of fork seals on your bike. Maybe take out the swing arm pivot, get that all re-greased. Do the same thing with the axles. Check around that bike, do some things you may not have had time to do, or you're usually waiting for winter to come to do. It's a great time to do your little dirt bike honey-do list. Just my thoughts while we're all in this emergency together. And the Next Time Try This segment, which is sponsored by Metro Racing, I want to talk to you tonight about the end gap on your rings. And what that means is your rings look like this on your piston. Of course, here's your piston. And right here at the end, and we can't get as close as we normally do with our AMSOIL B camera, but right here, there's a gap. And what that gap should be, and if Jordan is going to the next slide, you'll see it, sometimes it tightens up. The bore of the cylinder will make the ring pinch and it'll get together. What you want to avoid is, of course, having the ends of that ring actually touch each other. There should be a gap there called an E-gap or an end gap on your ring. If you look in the next slide, you'll see a picture of someone using a feeler gauge very, very similar to this right here. And what he's doing is he's putting that ring down inside the cylinder, down to where the pistons are hitting the wall through the stroke, not all the way at the top, not all the way at the bottom, but just down far enough. And he's putting that feeler gauge in there to make sure he's got the proper end gap in the ring. The proper end gap should be 4 thousandths per inch of bore that you have. We'll get into that in just a minute. In the next slide, you'll see a little machine. It's got a little hand crank thing. And what you could do, they sell this, it's very inexpensive. You can put the ring in there, and it's got a little grinding wheel, a little disc that will hit both sides of that ring as you crank it around. You could also do it, as Jordan probably, or hopefully is going to the next slide, you could also do it with a very, very fine file. A very fine file, you can do it through the ring, okay? The thing you want to be careful of is if there's a bevel or an angle on the ring, when you're filing it, you want to make sure you file it the same way that that angle is going. Now, a rule of thumb, and it's more than a rule of thumb. If you have the bore in your bike, let's say it's 72 millimeter. 72 millimeter is about 3 inches. So you want to go 4 thousandths per inch on the clearance of the gap. So if you have a 72 millimeter bore in your bike, that's approximately 3 inches. You want to go 4 thousandths per inch. So you want to make sure that you have a clearance in between here of 12 thousandths, if that happens to be the size of your bike. If it's 72 millimeters, it might be 56 millimeter. It could be much smaller if you have a 50cc bike. But whatever it is, you want to use a feeler gauge like this. And this one I happen to actually have set at 12 thousandths. It's 4 thousandths per inch. It was a 72 millimeter bore, 3 inches approximately. So 12 thousandths. You want to make sure you do that next time you put a top end in your bike. And believe me, it's negligible how much. If you take off an extra thousandth or 2 thousandths, you're not going to lose any amount of compression that's going to be noticeable. What is noticeable is if you have those 2 points of that ring touching each other, when the piston and the rings expand, that's how you wind up with a seizure on your bike or doing damage to your cylinder. That's what you might want to try next time. Jordan, I think next up we have a neat little video I put together, a little do-it-yourself thing for guys who want to paint their cylinders. And if you want to do a good job and make sure that your gasket surfaces are nice and clean and you want to keep them free of paint or anything, I'm going to show you in this little short video how you're going to do that. Jordan, run the video, and because I can't see it, you're going to have to tell me when the video's over, Jordan.
All right, you're cleaning the cylinder and putting some paper towels in it.
Very.
I have to narrate this, I guess.
Okay.
Fine masking job taking place.
Oh yeah, I should be telling people about this as I'm doing it, shouldn't I?
It'd be easier if you could see it, but
It would be, but they can hear me, and they can see that I'm using some very thin pinstriping, like masking tape and regular tape. And just in this situation, what I've done was I traced around it because the gasket surface on this particular cylinder happened to be very, very close to the last fin on the cylinder. So I traced around it a little bit with a pen, just so it would give me a better area or a clearer line to see when I went around with my X-Acto knife. Is that video still running, Jordan?
you're pulling the tape off at this very moment.
Okay. So you could see right there where I'm pulling the tape off. I can't see it, but you can. And you'll see what a nice clean surface I have there, or a nice clear surface that's been masked off cleanly in order for you to get a good paint job on that cylinder without getting any overspray on the cylinder, or of course getting any overspray down inside the ports or inside the bore itself.
That was brought to you by Metro Racing.
That is brought to you by Metro Racing, and we're going to be telling you a little bit more about them right now. Metro Racing out in Brackney, Pennsylvania. They've got a great sale going on, March Madness. They've got up to 40% off on shirts, jerseys, cups, hats, mugs, lighters, just about everything out there on their website. It's March Madness with up to 40% off. So when you get a minute, go over to metro.com or give Peg and my good friend Don Miller a call and put your order in with Metro Racing. In the Moto Showcase, we've got a really nice bike sent in this week by Mike Elgin. It looks exactly like a 1976 Honda CR125, except it's got a sleeve down kit in it. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that as Jordan progresses with the pictures. As I said, it was sent in by Mike Elgin. It's a great little bike, and I'm going to read to you some of the things that's been done with it. Here we have, one picture is worth 1,000 words. I bought this bike from eBay and by a very nice guy named Tom Ewing, who had a collection of restored vintage MX bike. He did most of the work himself with the exception of the engine. The chassis is a 1976 CR125. The engine has been sleeved down to 100 cc. The engine was from a 75 CR125. The work on the engine was done by the famous tuner E.C. Burt. The engine was supposedly one of Jeff Ward's mini Elsinores. Note the picture of the turbo crank. This is one of E.C. Burt's unique modifications to pressurize the crankcase and fuel-air mixture for faster throttle response. A great example of creative engine work mods at that time. The bike also has a Mugen ME125 replica water-formed up pipe from Haliguchi in Japan. Note that the pipe exits through the rear fender, has a special fitting on the rear fender. Tom did a top-notch job on this bike. I also included some pictures of one of my other bikes, a 76 FMF Honda. The pictures of this bike that you're seeing has my nephew holding it up. I'm very, very proud of it. It's a great bike. It gets all the looks wherever I take it. Mike Elgin, I want to thank you for sending in that beautiful 100cc Honda. It looks great. And for that, we're going to make sure that you get a package from fastguystuff.com, a nice sticker package. What I'd like you to do is inbox me a little later on, and I'll get your address, and we'll get some stickers out to you. Mike Elgin, thanks again for sending in that amazing little bike. We loved it. Next up, here's the problem. This is where people send in some questions throughout the week, and we try our best to answer them. I've got some really, really good ones this week. The first one is sent in by Robert Cure. Jordan, are we up to speed on the slides?
I'm good.
Okay. Robert Cure writes, Brad Lackey was one of the first to have upside-down forks, Simon forks, on his 1982 World Championship bike. Why did it take so long for other manufacturers, such as Honda, Yamaha, and Suzuki, to use what is referred to as the next big thing, the upside-down fork? Well, Robert, fortunately for you, I happen to be friends with Steve Simons, and I gave him a call about this. And he told me some really, really interesting things about what had happened. And you are right. You didn't see them on production bikes for a few years. But here's what Steve told me about the Simons forks and the upside-down forks in particular. He believes the upside-down forks were first on Showas. Showa first made them in 1985, and production for them was about 1988 for Showa and Kayaba, KYB. Now, both tried to engineer around Steve's patent. My patent is what it says right here. But KYB, intentionally or not, infringed. I informed them that they had infringed on my property and that then they rushed over to negotiate a license. I have to say they were very professional and very respectful. A few months later, Showa followed up as KYB did, took their lead and did the same thing. Both KYB and Showa showed me their factories and engineering departments, which was a first for Showa. They didn't really open their doors to anybody. Well, the KYB guys were total gentlemen. They rolled out the red carpet. The Showa management, they were generous with their facility tours, but their guides were, well, seasoned professionals, and they only showed me so much. We had to do something with licensing, so we did that right away. I asked Steve how long that went on for, or was it a patent that they had to pay for with each passing year? Steve said that all in all, he had no complaints with either one. In hindsight, it could have been a little bit easier with maybe an American or a European company, but he had to deal with the Asians at that time, and they were a little bit difficult. When it came to licensing, it says that he got the patent and licensing thing done in one shot. Now, of course, I didn't ask Steve how much financially he was rewarded for that, but the patent went on for 13 years. And I'm sure Steve knew about that. So when they paid for the licensing, they paid for it under the impression that they would be able to use those forks, make those forks similar to the way Steve Simons made them for the next 13 years. So as we all know, it was quite a feat that Steve made the upside down forks for Brad. And in one of the slides that you're going to see here, you may have passed it already, Jordan, I don't know, but it's a 1986 Anaheim 1 where there's a shot of David Bailey and Rick Johnson. If you look on Rick Johnson's bike to the right, the number 5 bike, you'll see that that has upside down forks on it, while David Bailey's bike still had conventional forks. So by 1985, the factories hadn't gone full bore yet with upside down forks on every bike, but some bikes did have them. The factory Hondas did have them. And I believe by 1988 or 89, everybody had the upside down forks on their bikes at that point. And of course, till this day, we're still seeing them on just about everything there is. Vmxq&A, I want to thank you for that question. Next question comes up from Steve Gattro. Steve, when did the Bultacos have steel liners in the hubs, and when did they go to chrome for the fusion and lining? Well, it seems to me that not that it seems to me, I asked Woody Graves about this, and Woody tells me that from 68 to around 72, they had the heavier steel bore or the steel liner on the brakes. And you can see them somewhere here in these pictures. Around 72 or 73, they went to a chrome liner. Now, it was great when they had the conical hub now, which was aluminum, but what would happen is people would poorly lace the hub, or not lace it, but true it. And then as they got hot, that chrome would peel away. Right now, one of the only people I think that is doing it is Woody Graves at Woody's GP Products, and he's relining them and redoing that plating on the Bultaco hubs. So you might want to catch up with Woody. I think there's a slide on this. If there's not, I'll be putting one up a little bit later on, and you can check with Woody about how he's replating and doing the electrofusion on the Bultaco drums. Thanks for the question, Steve. Next question comes up from Eric Weiss. Eric Weiss writes, I just picked up this Mako 440. I would like to confirm the year and model. Is it a GP? Now, Jordan, I don't know where you are with the pictures, but if you go to the first two, I think we'll see 2 shots of this bike. Now, I got some information from Mike Chamberlain, from Mike's, of course, Mako Center, very, very famous place that had Makos that were doing conversions way back in the 70s. Also, Vmxq&A sent me some information, who's very, very knowledgeable on these bikes. And I did a little research myself. So Eric Weiss's question is this bike a GP or not? And the engine number is a U440159, the frame being a 390. No, unfortunately, Eric, it is not. 390 is a 1973. GPs are 1974 and a half, and their frames begin with 393. Mako Madness on their site, which is where I checked, they have it listed as 340 as the 74 frames, but I think that's old information, and I really think it isn't correct. A U441 motor is correct for a 74, 74 and a half GP, 75 also. 73s were 400s, not 440s. The 400s are U405 motors. So I'm thinking that yours is a very early 74 440 motor. I'm also thinking that it is a U, which is a close ratio trans, and the K is, of course, a wide ratio trans. So I am not thinking that your bike is a GP, because if it were, it would start with 393 on the frame. Still a great looking bike. I don't think it's a conversion from Mike's Mako Center back in the day, but I think it's a great bike. You told me the price you paid for it, but you didn't really put it in the question. So I'm not really going to say anything about that. You didn't pay too much for the bike, that's for sure. I really appreciate the question. Thanks for sending it in. And I do believe you have a 73 440 there. Thanks again. Next up, what's it worth? I got to take a breath on this one. This is brought to you by AMSOIL. Last week at the Mecum auction in Arizona, we saw this 1974 Suzuki TM 400 sell for a whopping, or should I say a ridiculous, $16,500. Jordan, are you scrolling through the pictures a little bit there? Jordan?
Yep.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. We know for a fact that this bike was sold just about 6 months ago for $6,200. It was sold by someone from Arizona to the person who sold this bike at the Vmxq auction in Glendale. The person bought the bike for $6,200, and I have to say, he did a really great job dismantling the bike, replating everything, putting the proper finishes on it. The paintwork looks nice on it. I don't know about the shocks and certain other little things. But what really got under my skin was when I read the description of the bike that was in the auction. It said, purportedly built for John DeSoto. Anybody that knows anything about this bike being 1974 and when John DeSoto was riding Suzuki's can certainly tell you this bike was not built for John DeSoto, especially the way those shocks are and a couple of other things about the bike. What happened was the seller who sold the bike at the auction really took the description from the first guy who sold the bike for $6,200. This is really bad information, and this is something that I'm really concerned with as people sell bikes and make up some kind of history about them along the way. Here's a bike, of course, that was listed at Vmxq. It's in the listing that it says purportedly built for John DeSoto. Whoever bought this bike paid an incredible amount of money for it. And what they did, in my opinion, was they paid for the sizzle while knowing nothing about the steak. $16,500 is unconscionable. Whoever bought it, my apologies. I don't know what to tell you. But a 1974 TM400, I wouldn't care who restored it, is not worth $16,500. I don't care if it's got a reed valve. I don't care what kind of story is behind it, unless the story can actually be verified with some type of pictures, some kind of documentation, something from somebody who actually rode the bike saying it was their bike. Sorry, thumbs down from Joe on this one. Next up, we got trivia. And it's for, of course, a Preston Petty autograph number plate. We have one right back here. We've been giving away every week when we're not giving away that great book by Keith Geisner, Finding Number 49, which we give away on the first Wednesday of every month. So tonight, here comes the question. And we're going to give you a phone number. Jordan, I'm sure, is going to have it up on the screen. And then Susie has to come in, of course, and get her phone so she can take the, I'm going to make it the 5th caller. Okay, here comes the question. Bob Hanna broke his leg in a water skiing accident. Very true, very famous story. Almost put him out of commission permanently in professional motocross, but it didn't, Hanna being the guy that he was. Who was driving the boat when Hanna broke his leg that day? That's the question. Give us a call, 925-234-8181. That's 925-234-8181. You call in, it's going to be the 5th caller. We're going to find out who you are. We're going to get you back on the phone. Susie's going to be picking it up. Sue, come in and get your phone so you can answer the trivia question. And we're going to get on with that. Right now, we're going to get on to the product spotlight. Product spotlight is, of course, Preston Petty products. They got a great supply of things over there. Paul Stannard, Preston Petty getting together to bring back all the wonderful things that we have grown accustomed to from Preston Petty throughout the years. Now, this week's special is a headlight number plate. These are really, really great. Whether you're an enduro guy, a cross-country guy, or you just want to have a light on your bike, maybe you want to go through town on your little IT 175 or 200. This week, the special is $65.95 for the viewers of Vintage Motocross Q&A. Generally, these retailed for $85.95 on Preston Petty's website, where there is a little discount on there too. These can even be a little bit higher in the retail market. But for you people here, for being a viewer of Vintage Motocross Q&A, it is $65.95. And here's what you have to do. Read my lips. You have to inbox me for the coupon code. I can give it to you. You can go to the Preston Petty website, put it in, and you'll get the discount. This is a very, very limited number of these number plates right now. It's a very, very limited number because of shipping as well. They're not made in America. They're made in Portugal. There's a whole big thing going on with shipping right now, all because of this coronavirus stuff. But Paul and the boys stepped up to the plate this week with this product for us, but it's a very, very limited amount. There's only so many white, yellow, and blue available. At $65.95, you're going to want to jump on these as soon as you can. Think about it, guys. You got 3 bikes. Buy 3 of them, you save $60. Susie, do we have a winner?
We do.
Well,
Chris? Chris?
Yes.
Hold on.
Hello, this is Joe Abadi. You're on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Who am I speaking with?
Hey, Joe, this is Chris Goyone. How are you?
I'm doing all right, Chris. Our question was,
Awesome.
while Bob Hanna was out water skiing one beautiful sunny afternoon, he snapped his leg. Who was driving that boat?
That would be Marty Tripes.
It is Marty Tripes. That is the correct answer. And I want to thank you for calling in. I'm going to put Susie back on the phone. She's going to get your address, and we're going to send you out an autographed Preston Petty number plate.
Awesome. Love the show.
Thank you so much. Here you go, Suze. When you get done with Chris, call Jordan back and bring the phone back in. AMSOIL, one of our sponsors for the show. I love the AMSOIL products. I've been using them in the shop a little bit here and there. Not every product so far, but the ones that I've used, I've really, really liked very, very much. So AMSOIL, a sponsor of the show, has been doing a great job. Russell Waters, staying in communication with me all the time, telling me about products. We were even speaking the other day about compressors and how they make oil for compressors. They make oil for just about everything. For the show, for Vintage Motocross Q&A viewers, we've got the special going right here. It's got the Mudslinger, we've got chain lube, we've got the engine degreaser, and we've got this oil. Now, if you want to buy this oil, you can get it in the grade that you want it in, whether it's 10W50, 10W30. When you order it, you're going to get a hold of AMSOIL, and I'm going to give you the email for that in just a moment, and you're going to get a really, really great deal. It's like 44% off regular price. You get all these things here, which retail for $88.40 for just $49.99. Now, here's what you have to do. You have to get a hold of AMSOIL at AMSOILplus@AOL.com. Listen to me carefully. AMSOILplus@AOL.com. That's their PayPal, and you want to make sure you put your address in there as well. That's their PayPal, and that's their email. So what you might want to do is get on AMSOILplus.com. AMSOILplus@AOL.com. Get a hold of Russell, give him your information for your address. Then tell him what oil you want. Tell him what grade you want in your oil. Then you're going to go over to AMSOILplus@AOL.com for PayPal. You're going to pay him, and you're going to get a beautiful package just like this. One of the great things about this thing, too, is this octane booster. Now, while it's a little bottle, it's good for 15 gallons of gasoline, and it'll bring up the volume by a number of 4. So in other words, if you have 96 octane at your pump, you can buy this, takes it up 4, takes it up to 100, which is good. Some pumps have only 98, 96, 92, depending on where you are in your neck of the woods. So this is a really great thing to have in that package, and you want to get that from AMSOIL. I want to thank AMSOIL for being a sponsor of the show. Right now, we're going to take a commercial break, and then we will be right back.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only VINCO knows the bikes and parts the way you do. VINCO. Keep the ride going.
Stand by. And we're back.
VINCO commercial. I love that commercial. It really looks great on the show, and I love watching it. I want to thank everybody at VINCO for supporting Vintage Motocross Q&A. This week's product from VINCO, Bultaco handlebars. They make a great Bultaco Bend, and their chrome on these handlebars is absolutely beautiful. One of the things that a lot of guys do when they restore bikes, and it sticks out like a sore thumb, is they'll put incorrect bars on the bike. The VINCO bar, the Bultaco Bend especially, is identical to the way Bultaco had those bars made. Looks way better than when guys put on Renthal bars, which is a great bar, but with the clamps and the additional, it's like a 4-piece handlebar. And when guys put them on their bikes to race, it's one thing, but when you put them on your vintage bike as a restoration, they never quite look right. So the vintage bar from VINCO, it's a Bultaco Bend, $129.95. Get over to VINCO.com. You can order up some bars. They've got a lot of products over there too. I want to thank everybody at VINCO. Got a new segment here tonight too. It's called Just How I See It. Chad Reed has been on the scene for so many years now. He has won at least 2 championships that I can think of off the top of my head. Chad Reed just celebrated a birthday the other day. It was March 15th, and Chad was 38 years old. Now, I see a lot of people, they get down on Chad sometimes. They say he's a little bit old. He shouldn't be out there. He's got to be in the last chance qualifier. Why is he out there risking maybe his health to just be in there to get the most starts in a professional supercross? Let me tell you something. He's kicking ass on guys that are half his age. He's 38 years old. There's guys out there that are 20, 22 years old that can't qualify. Chad Reed is still out there, not being a danger to himself or anybody else on the track. And let me say this, just to be frank with you. I was never a big Chad Reed fan. Not that I disliked him. I respected him for everything he did. But when Chad Reed raced against Bubba Stewart, I wanted Bubba to win. When he raced against Ricky Carmichael, I was a huge Carmichael fan. When he raced against Dungey, I wanted Dungey to win every week. That's just the way it was. But I never disrespected Chad Reed, and I have a lot of respect for him now that he's in the twilight of his career. In fact, his last season here in Supercross is being kind of cut short due to the virus thing and things being shut down. But with all due respect, he's out there sometimes in the last chance qualifier, winning that and still getting out there in the main at night, finishing, well, I think I've seen him finish as high as 12th a couple of times throughout this season. So good on Chad Reed. I hope you enjoy your retirement. For anybody out there who's kind of down on Chad Reed, thinking he shouldn't be out there, well, I disagree with you. He should be out there. He's still kicking ass at his age, and that is just how I see it. Jordan, I think we've got announcements next, correct? Jordan, are you with me, brother?
Announcements, yep.
Okay. Oh, old school scrambles. Unfortunately, due to the coronavirus, the big shutdown, the old school scrambles has been postponed. There will be no race on March 29th. I don't know when that is going to resume. We're seeing a lot of races being shut down throughout the country. I read this week where Diamond Don's Arma National will be shut down, which was supposed to be in April. They're rescheduling that for some time in October. Also seeing where the, and I believe this is true. It hasn't been formally announced yet, but I'm pretty sure that it is true, is that the CZ World Championship race is going to be canceled as well. And that's going to be rescheduled for October. The Boise race too, the Boise Inter-Am. So there's so many things going on out there that have been canceled. You really got to look if you've made plans to be at any of these races. A lot of them are being shut down. I don't know what's going to happen with Scott Burnworth's race. That should be the next slide, but he does have the SoCal Vintage MX Classic 11 that is scheduled for June 13th. You got to check with Scott, check on the Facebook page, see if that's still going to happen. We all don't know what's going to happen by June, but right now we're seeing races that are well into April that are being canceled right now. So let's sit tight and see what happens there. GTL metal polishing. George Lucas out in New Jersey does a great job restoring metal for some of the most beautiful cars you've ever seen. Does a great job on delicate molding, grills, and all sorts of trim. The thing I like about George is he's a vintage motocross enthusiast, and he does a great job on vintage motocross bikes as well. So if you're one of those guys that would prefer not to polish all that hardware before you're getting it plated, you might want to go over to gtlmetalpolishing.com. Check with George. He'll give you a real fair price. I'm sure you can get all your hardware painted. He also tells me that he can, but doesn't prefer, to do complete rims, but he will do them. Someone just last week had a set of rims done from GTL Metal Polishing. They did a great job at a fair price. So if you get a moment, please support GTL, George Lucas, GTL, metalpolishing.com. FastGuyStuff.com still supplying us with all those stickers for the Moto Showcase bikes. I want to thank Sean Gomes and everybody there at FastGuyStuff.com. They're not just about the stickers that they send us. Go over there, take a look at their website. They make a lot of period correct stickers, some really great stuff that'll be period correct for your bike. Vmxq&A, Vintage Motocross Q&A is still looking for sponsors. We've still got some packages that we could sell. We've got a lot of real estate behind us back here that we can put a deal together for you. So if you're a person out there who wants to reach maybe 20,000 people a week, you could do that for not a whole lot of money here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Drop me a line, inbox me at Vmxq&A, and I'll get you out a proposal package. Well, that's all the time we have for tonight for Vintage Motocross Q&A. I want to thank Jordan Woodworth once again, Susie, and everybody out there who is watching. In the meantime, with the lockdown, with so many people being stuck at home, I continue to pray for you all. May God's grace be at your home, and may He continue to bless America. Thanks for watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'll see you next week.
Hey, Joe, this garbage disposal isn't going to fix itself.